guys, it's Janie. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. Today I'm here to do a review for you, and I'm going to be reviewing Rumbo by Ellen Hopkins. I picked this book up actually to read in between reading The Likeness by Tana French, because if you guys watch my review for In the Woods, you'll know they're just really slow at parts, and In the Woods is at a really slow part. So I decided to pick this book up. I knew it would be fast. It's Ellen Hopkins. She's really fluid, and she writes in verse, as you all know. So they're really quick reads, but they're very touching, very emotional, and they make you feel something. So in this book you have Matthew, who is dealing with the suicide of his brother. In this book, there's all kinds of elements. It talks about homosexuality, bullying, faith, and all that kind of stuff. When I first started reading this book, I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of frustrated with Matthew because, you know, he has no faith in anything. There is no God, there is no heaven, there is no nothing. It was a little irritating to me when I was reading that, because I have very strong faith. And yeah, but she made me realize why he was the way he was, and I started to feel those things for him. And in this book she touches on a lot of the same issues I have with Christianity and what goes along with that, because a lot of times, you know, when you're talking about Christianity, there are a lot of people who are Christians who judge other people harshly. And my belief is we have no right to judge anybody. So yeah, that was touched on here a lot, and it touched close to my heart, because I believe that, you know, nobody should be able to do the things just because they say, hey, I'm a Christian, and you know, God tells me that, you know, I should not accept you because you're doing these things that are not acceptable. And you see it all the time. It happens all the time, and you start to understand why people don't like the thought of Christianity, because so many people just put their place, themselves in God's place, and to me that's not right. So it's touched on in this, and when Ellen Hopkins writes a book, she really makes you think and finally understand what somebody is going through. Her characters are always very well developed, and you watch them evolve through the story, and that's what's great about, you know, characters in books. If you've got a good author, you watch those characters as this person, and they evolve into who they're meant to become. And I think the characters is one of the most important aspects of a story for me. Yes, you have to have a good plot, but your characters have to carry that plot, and they have to, you know, keep the story, that plot interesting by who they are and what they do and what they say and that kind of stuff. So characters are really important to me. Like I said, probably the most important. The characters in this book I really liked, even the ones that you don't want to like, you know, the ones that you hate. I really liked Alexa. I probably liked Alexa more than I liked Matthew, because Alexa, she goes through life and she knows that life's going to throw things at you, and you have to find a way to deal with those things, you know, and become a better person because of it. She doesn't bullshit anybody, you know. She says, this is how it is, this is what I see, you know, and I like real people like that. And I always find Ellen Hopkins' characters and stories very realistic. She writes with realism, and I love that. I like a story that is real. You know, when you read a fantasy, you want a fantasy, you know. Fantasy is not always going to feel realistic, but when you come to a book that stuff is happening around you that you're reading about, I like that to be as realistic as possible. And I really think that she does that in all of her books, and this one was great. I started out being a little frustrated, but I ended up loving the story. The characters, the plot line, you know, watching Matthew try to deal with things going on around him, trying to deal with the fact that he has no faith, you know, and everything comes together and in the end of the story, and I just loved how she wrote it. I rated this book a 4.5 stars on Goodreads, and I just implore anybody to read at least one Ellen Hopkins book, because when you read her stuff, you're going to feel something. There is, you know, if you don't feel something, then I'd have to question that. But she just really writes with heart. And I love that. And there's something that she said in this book, and it had to do with, you know, our faith and people believing in something. And she had commented something, and a teenager, she came on there and she said, "It's awfully arrogant of you to think we have to believe in anything." She said, "I happen to be an atheist." And Ellen got to thinking about that, and she wrote her thoughts in here, and she said, I kept coming back to the thought that being a teen should be about asking big questions rather than cutting yourself off from them. Not there can't possibly be, but rather what if there is, or even what if it's completely different than anyone assumes. And I think that's a good thing to pass along. You know, rather than saying there is no possibility, wouldn't it be better to say, what if there was? That's my review today, guys, on Rumble. Pick it up if you haven't already. If you have, let me know in the comments below. We'll talk about it. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.